我々は火炎放射器の攻撃を受け、壕内は完備なきまでに焼き尽くされてしまった。We were attacked by flamethrowers, and the inside of my pillbox was charred to the walls. If any human being had lived through the fire, it must be called a true miracle. Yet a miracle did happen.
Tadao Onuki was a chief petty officer in the Imperial Japanese Navy. He was on the island of Tarawa in 1943. Today he drives a taxi cab in Tokyo. Mickey Franklin is a beer and wine distributor today, living with his family in Southern California. In 1943, he fought at Tarawa as a sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps.
I don't care where you were on that island, you were right in the middle of the battle. The water was an awful red color from the blood of all the men who had lost their lives. It was a horrible thing to see.
On the tiny atoll of Tarawa, the lives of Tadao Onuki and Mickey Franklin came together for a brief moment. Two fighting men, one Japanese, one American, relived that moment in history. For nearly 2 years, the Gilbert Islands, located 2,500 miles southwest of Hawaii, have been under Japanese occupation. In the Gilberts is a group called Tarawa, and its principal island is Paitio. 3,800 yards long, 600 yards wide, the tiny atoll includes an airfield and a defense system that make it, in 1943, one of the most heavily fortified islands in the world. Surrounding the island, barbed wire, and on the beaches, a barricade built of coconut logs. Captured 8-inch guns from Singapore guard the coastal approaches. Field guns, pillboxes, anti-aircraft guns, and machine guns are planted across the island. A series of shelters with 5-foot-thick concrete roofs and 10-foot-thick walls is constructed. Only a direct hit by a 2,000-pound bomb can smash them. The Japanese have not only fortified Tarawa, but have moved 4,500 of their best Marines in to defend it. The island commander, Rear Admiral Kiji Shibasaki, declares that Tarawa cannot be taken by 1,000,000 men. One of the men brought in to help keep that promise is Chief Petty Officer Tadao Onuki.
Our company is called the 3rd Special Base Company of Yokosuka, and we spend many busy days building the positions and battle training. There is hardly any speculation about the war or about our assignments to Paitio. If someone is foolish enough to ask, "What are we doing here?" or "What is the point of holding this little strip of rock?" we quickly silence him, for fear the talk will leak to the higher officers. In the Imperial Navy, such individual breaches of discipline bring a mass punishment for all.
Now in November 1943, ships of the newly formed American 5th Fleet begin steaming toward the Gilbert Island and the conquest of Tarawa. Aboard are 18,000 Marines, the 2nd Marine Division, tough veterans of Guadalcanal and Tulagi. When the troops hit the beach, they will be under the command of Colonel David M. Shoup. One of the Marines aboard is his runner, 18-year-old Private First Class Mickey Franklin.
4 days after we put out to sea, they tell us where we're going. They bring out a map of Tarawa showing the coral reef and everything. When we hear about all the shelling and bombing they are going to do before we land, everybody feels a little more relieved. Most of us now feel as though we can practically run up there on the island and take it over. The whole island is supposed to be level before we get there. I don't really feel much different about going to Tarawa than when we went in at Guadalcanal or Tulagi. Our practice maneuvers for this one are about the same, except the pressure seems to be on a little bit more. Not from the men themselves, but from the higher-ups. They want things done with more accuracy and everything.
D-Day is set for November 20th, and 1 week before, 400 planes begin around-the-clock bombing. Bombing cannot obliterate all of Basio's defenses. November 18th, cruisers and destroyers join the attack. Admiral Kingman says of the bombardment, "We will not neutralize, we will not destroy, we will obliterate the defenses on Basio."
Every day, the enemy sends their battleships and large aircraft. Once they attack us for 24 hours, it has little effect. While we wait for the enemy attack, I am assigned to a tank company and it is ready for action.
As the American task force approaches Tarawa, the Marines are briefed on the assault plans. Amphibious tractors, Amtraks, will be used, as well as conventional landing craft to take them over the reef to 3 beaches, called Red Beaches 1, 2, and 3. After landing, the Marines are to sweep across the airfield in the center and push the enemy down the long, narrow part of the island. One officer says, "Some think we can take it in 3 hours. I think it may take a little longer."
Somebody says, all we got to do is walk on this island and it's ours. It doesn't always work out that way. You sort of have in the back of your mind that it isn't going to be that easy.
Early morning, November 20th, Basio comes into sight. By 3:55, the Marines have finished a steak breakfast and are going down the cargo nets into the landing craft. Basio is quiet.
The day has come. The enemy destroyers shower us with shells. Explosions are so heavy that you almost feel Petio change its shape under you. You even get the feeling that it might suddenly sink into the sea forever.
After 30 minutes, the shelling is halted to allow one final airstrike before the circling boats start their run into the beach. There is a blunder, and the planes are late. For 20 minutes, the Japanese fire at the unprotected transports. Finally, at 6:15, carrier bombers sweep over the island for a 7-minute bombardment.
Carrier-based planes bomb us from the air, and in a short time the whole island is enveloped with fire and black smoke.
The naval bombardment is resumed. In 2.5 hours, 3,000 tons of explosives are poured onto the island. Paicio's defenders have to be obliterated, because when the first wave lands, the only armor a Marine will have is his khaki shirt.
We see them coming in many landing craft. They probably think we have been overwhelmed by the bombing and shelling.
The first wave of United States Marines coming into Red Beach 1 is caught in a deadly crossfire. Undamaged shelters, the Japanese rake the beaches with fire, pin the troops down behind the log barriers. The tide is working for the Japanese. It is too low. Only the Amtraks have a faint chance of making it. From the beginning, landing craft are in trouble, trapped on the reef.
I'm in the third wave, and even before we get into the beach, some of the first and second waves are coming back, saying the tide has changed and they can't make it onto the island. Most of the men are pinned down. We're going in on an amphibian tractor, but about 150 yards offshore, it just completely conks out. So we just have to start waiting. So many things go through your mind when something like this happens. You're in the water up to your neck, and you can't stop or anything. Nobody in front of you, and very few in back of you. And you just have to keep going.
By 11 a.m., Colonel Shoup is directing the attack from a position alongside the narrow pier which juts out into the lagoon.
When everything opens up, the colonel yells at us to get as close to the pier as we can. Don't go in any further. He says to stop landing troops and puts out a call for strafing. There must be 200 killed already, right in the water.
By the middle of the day, most of the Amtraks have been wrecked or sunk. None of the other landing craft can make it over the reef. The bodies of dead and dying Marines are strewn across the water. Ammunition is low, water is almost gone, and plasma is exhausted. 1,500 men are pinned down along the narrow, bloody strip of sand. And from their officers, all messages to Colonel Shoup agree. Situation desperate. All afternoon of the first day, the Marines struggle to move off Tarawa's narrow beach. And all afternoon, the Japanese keep them flat in the sand.
It appears that we have broken their landing attempt. Enemy craft are running aground, and enemy soldiers are falling left and right under our thundering fire. But the enemy advances through our fire along the beach, jumping over the dead bodies of their comrades.
Carrier-based planes come in for almost continuous bombing and strafing.
After we get past the wall, we make our way to one of the pillboxes and the colonel sets up his command post. He tells us to dig in and stand fast for the night. My foxhole is 15 feet away from our ammunition dump. If they ever hit it, we'll be blowing sky high.
By the end of D-Day, about 5,000 Marines have made it onto the beach, and about 1,500 of them are wounded or dead. As the men dig in to spend a nightmare ashore, Colonel Shoup is heard to say, "This is the damnedest crap game I ever got into." The morning of D+1, the last of the divisional reserves start to wade the long, dangerous way over the reef. Halfway across, they are suddenly cut down by a murderous crossfire. During the night, Japanese machine gunners swim out and hide themselves in an old, half-sunken hull. Carrier planes come in to put them out of action. For 5 hours, under a blistering sun, the reserves continue battling their way ashore. When Colonel Shoup calls for more reserves, the answer he gets is, "We are ready to land the cooks and truck drivers." Finally, at noon on D+1, more than 36 hours late, the tide rises, and with it rise the hopes of the desperate invasion force. For the first time, landing craft begin to slip over the top of the reef. Men and supplies pour onto the beach. By 4 o'clock, Colonel Shoup reports, "Our casualties heavy. Enemy casualties unknown. Situation, we are winning." By the middle of the afternoon, some of the Marines have broken out of the beachhead, are fighting their way across the island. By 5 o'clock, they are across the airfield and have a foothold on the southern shore. The island is split in two.
Our forces have lost much food and ammunition, and we are no longer a match for the enemy. In spite of all, our soldiers courageously fight and shake the guts of the American forces.
All afternoon, casualties are evacuated. The landing craft move them out to the waiting ships in a steady shuttle service.
Once I am with 2 comrades and they were ahead of me. Suddenly they exposed an enemy shell with a thundering blast. And my 2 comrades are gone. They have disappeared, blown to bits without a trace in a split second.
The smell of death is nauseating in the tropic heat. Even while the battle continues, mass graves are scooped out and filled.
As much as we hate to see it happen, the only way of getting rid of the bodies is to take a bulldozer and bury the Americans on one side and the Japanese on the other. There's too many dead on this campaign.
On the morning of D+2, the Japanese commander on Tarawa sends out his last message. "Our weapons have been destroyed, and from now on everyone is attempting a final charge. May Japan exist for 10,000 years." The morning of D+3 dawns on another sickening scene. Last night, the Japanese ran screaming into the Marine lines in a last frantic banzai charge. Their dead, 300 of them, are strewn across a grim landscape. Only 500 Japanese are still alive, and against these, the Marines move in a steady and relentless drive. From 8 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, the Marines systematically killed 475 of the 500 remaining Japanese.
Now we begin to find out that the bombing hasn't really knocked out those big pillboxes. They are practically untouched. So we try with the flamethrowers. You have to get up close enough to the slits in the pillboxes so you can burn them out, and then get around to the back entrance and just dig them out. After we secure some of these pillboxes, we find bodies inside are practically stacked on top of each other.
I wait in our bunker for the time we will make our last charge. Suddenly, our bunker is turned into a fire of hell in 1 second by the Americans. Inside, it is completely burning. Gradually, I become conscious. I'm pressed under something heavy and cannot move my body. I'm pressed under the charred bodies of my fellow soldiers. But I still have life. When I get out, I cannot believe it. And I just stand as in a dream.
Seabees and Marine engineers work all morning on the airstrip. At noon, the first carrier-based plane comes in for a landing. 1:12 in the afternoon, not quite 76 hours after the first Marine hit the beach, Tarawa is declared secure. Mickey Franklin, now a sergeant, received several shrapnel wounds and sees no more action. Chief Petty Officer Tadeo Onuki is one of only 17 Japanese to survive the Battle of Tarawa. Is later amazed when his captors give him medical attention instead of killing him. The war comes to an end for Onuki in the American prisoner of war camp in Texas. The 2-square-mile patch of coral is a devastated prize, a burned and blackened graveyard for 4,500 Japanese, for more than 1,000 Americans.